I am Chaobang. I wander the worlds, and this is my account of Cesair, the first person in Ireland according to the Book of the Taking of Ireland, or as it is also known, the Book of Invasions.
Yes.
This is a story which begins in Meroe, a city of the ancient kingdom of Kush, whose ruins stand today in the land they call Sudan. Now, certain people would have it that in ancient times in these parts, there was a man called Noah. And this Noah, they say, was building an ark, a great ship, in order to survive some massive flood that his God was going to call up because he didn't like people or something. I don't know. I gather it's famous, but this is something like it's not important. Anyway, it's the same people. They might tell you also that this Noah had 3 sons. But there are other people who are perhaps somewhat better informed who would tell you that he also had a 4th son, a son called Bith. And apparently this Bith had his name struck from the records, which is why you won't have heard of him, because Noah didn't like him and thought he should die in the flood. And well, that's not good, by the way. You know, it's abusive. If you're a father, if you're a parent, you don't do that. Yeah, you do that, you're going to have a very, very bad time. I'm sure. Yeah, so don't be like Noah. Yeah? So anyway, we know that after Noah built his ark, he expressly forbade his son Bith from setting foot on board. And that was not even the worst of it. What was still worse was that Bith's daughter, was very wise, good, guilty of nothing, also was barred from the ark by Noah, just by virtue of their relationship. Not good. Unfortunately for Noah, Cesair was also very forthright. Yeah, that's her, by the way. It's Cesair, Bith's daughter. And she was not about to take this sitting down. She did not find Noah's terms acceptable. She did not accept this strange god he seemed to have fallen in with, nor what appeared in her eyes as his violent and intolerant vision for the world. And so, if they weren't going to allow her on board their ark, well, it seemed to her there was only one obvious thing to do, and that was to build her own. Actually, she realized she could go one better than that. 2 better, in fact. She could build 3 arks. And so, that's exactly what she did. And while her ships were under construction, Cesair consulted with an old Egyptian priest for advice on what to do with them. And the priest's advice was this: to seek a land free from humanity. Seek a land free from humanity. Which made sense to Cesair, because a land without humans would be a land free from the so-called the so-called sin, which Noah's God intended to wipe off the earth. Or so Cesair reasoned, and therefore would be of no interest to his, let us say, rather radical schemes. So it was that while Noah was still gathering his animals, construction on Cesair's 3 ships was completed, to a far better standard than Noah's, I might add. I mean, there's good evidence for that. And onto these 3 ships, she loaded everyone who would follow her, which was quite a lot of people, he said. Many women in particular, but also, of course, Cesair's father Bith, as well as her older brother called Laura, and Cesair's own devoted companion, who was a man called Fintan. You have Bith, Laura, and Fintan. And so they were prepared, and she had her crew set out on a voyage across the known world. Oh, it was a remarkable journey. Departing Meroe, one of the oldest civilizations, remembered for its great pyramids and prosperous trade networks, she left the shadow of a burgeoning Hebrew culture, where a monotheistic god taught of sin and wrath and blah, blah, blah. Her party moved through the Egyptian Empire, learning of their writing and their moral philosophy. In Babylon and Assyria, she learned of numbers and mathematics, and of great feats of engineering. In Greece, she learned of a growing philosophical movement, and of gods who governed over, but were also governed by, human emotions. The last civilization they encountered on their long voyage was that of the early Celts, where they witnessed their rituals of status and learned of their belief in the abiding oneness between humanity and the land. The journey was long and treacherous. Along the way, they lost 2 of their 3 ships, along with many lives. But eventually, at long last, a land free from humankind appeared on the horizon. Ireland. They had arrived. The wanderers had arrived, and they had learnt much about the known world along the way, but the price they had paid was dear. Of the original group, only 53 people survived the journey. 53 people. Among them 50 women, including Cesair herself, and 3 men, Fintan, Laura, and Biff. And all of them were exhausted and weakened by the journey. To make matters worse, Laura, Cesair's brother, suffered a grievous injury upon landing. There was an oar cut deep into his thigh. It was really painful and horrible. And that forced him to remain bedridden while they struggled to establish their first settlement. But, I mean, they got this far. These people were good at what they did. Their settlement grew. It grew peacefully, even. Soon you might even have considered starting to call it prosperous. Yet for all this success, its founder's mind was elsewhere. Because Cesair wanted a sign. Cesair wanted a sign that her journey had succeeded. She wanted proof that she and her followers had indeed escaped from the flood. And if they had, there surely followed a second question. How should this initial society of theirs, with 50 women and 3 men, securely and sustainably populate this new land? Well, flood or no flood, Cesair realized that this needed a resolution. So what did she do? She called her people together. They deliberated. They argued through a range of potential strategies. And having heard all their ideas, Cesair made her decision. And through her persuasive and charismatic leadership, she brought them all to consensus. The plan was as follows. To keep their bloodlines as diverse as possible, they would divide their community into 3 parts. 3 parts. 17 of these 50 women chose to go south, and they would take along with them Cesair's brother, Laura. 16 of the women elected to go north, and they took along Cesair's father, Biff. And the other 16 women, including Cesair herself, plus her dear companion Fintan, chose to remain in the original settlement. Now, a word for Fintan. Wise, kind Fintan. He was always, let us say, towards the gentler end of the spectrum represented by this group of people. And as you might think, he had his, well, let's say, reservations about this plan. I mean, for a start, would his mind and body even be up to the monumental burden that it would demand of them? 16 women, all bigger than him, each and every one. And on top of that, even, he was worried. I mean, would this not hurt Cesair? See, the thing to realize is that Fintan and Cesair had deeply loved each other for most of their lives. Their hearts were bound entirely to one another. So, quite understandably, she was concerned what effect this would have on her. Yet it was Cesair who insisted that for the good of their society's future, she was quite prepared to allow Fintan to engage with any of the women in their division who wished for a child. And, well, Fintan understood her logic, as the leader, and acceded to it out of his love and respect for her. Regrettably, his task soon became an ordeal on a whole other order of magnitude. Here's why. The turbulent voyage had not been benign on old Biff, Cesair's father, already fairly elderly, and after only his first involvement with a woman in the northern group, his heart gave out, just like that, instant cardiac death. And that meant that Bith became the first human to die in Ireland. As for Laura, Cesair's brother, well, he never really recovered from his injury at the end of the voyage, and no sooner had his group arrived in the southern lands than he too passed away. The plan to divide up the community thus appeared in serious doubt, as the women from both groups returned to Cesair's original settlement, whereupon Fintan, now the only man left, suddenly felt the pressure of 49 pairs of inquiring eyes upon him. History does not record the exact circumstances of Fintan's breakdown. Could it be that the impact of these expectations, along with the sudden loss of both his brother-in-law and father-in-law, both of whom were very dear to him, could it be these took their traumatic toll on Fintan's spirit? Perhaps he found himself no longer in a condition to fulfill what he felt Cesair expected of him, but he just couldn't bring himself to face her and tell her this. After all that she struggled through for them, after all she'd done just to get them this far. What's clear, in any case, is the outcome. Fintan vanished, whether because he fled or because he got lost in a haze of suffering. He disappeared into the caves in the southwest of Ireland. And when she heard about this, Cesair was devastated. All the accomplishments of the journey and of the settlement she had directed were all impaled in her mind by the anguish of losing her beloved Fintan. And though she never relented in her search for him, up and down the coast of Ireland, she never found him again. And so, consumed in grief and despair, Cesair too fell ill and passed away. And her people raised a cairn to commemorate her, the first person to set foot in Ireland. But what then of her ambition? Had Cesair brought her people to safety then? Had she delivered them from the murderous flood of the god of that Noah? Well, whether he was a legitimate god or not, and we can debate that, it could be that his arms were quite long. Floodwaters are recorded as having risen against the island of Ireland. And there are people who will tell you that this would-be God's wrath was inescapable, and that all of Cesair's followers perished after all because they were wrong, as these people say. Honestly speaking, these people should know better. Because, for example, if you speak to the people of Ireland today, you might find this theory of theirs quite difficult to believe. Does one not hear something of Cesair's legacy persisting in them? Some whisper of her world, or perhaps at the very least of her word? Perhaps those not necessarily long words that she said to Noah when she told him what to do with his ark and his God and all the rest of it? Is it not more likely, we should ask, that the way of Cesair lived on? After all, their ken to her still stands. And what sort of flood could trouble 49 of clearly the most formidable women of their time if it could not even knock over a pile of stones? Oh, and what too of Fintan? Did Fintan survive the cataclysm? Well, that's another story, one you might hear more about next week. For this was only the beginning of the legend of Fintan mac Bocra, as he's now known, Fintan the Wise. But this story, the story from which all other stories in Ireland follow, belongs to Cesair.